Recently, I was sitting around just kind of thinking about life and about the past and things that have happened. And my mind went to a number of moments in life where life just changed like that. Suddenly, it was different than it had been the moment before. And as I was contemplating those things, I thought to myself, it was almost like a switch had been flipped. And I thought, who flipped that switch on that relationship or on that situation or on that condition or on that moment? How did it change so suddenly? And I realized that we all face those kind of moments in our life where suddenly the life we were living is not the same life we had a few moments before. That if we could time travel, that feeling of, well, if I could just go back in time, if I could just have those 2 seconds back or those 5 minutes back, or if I could have that conversation over again, going back in time, I'd be different. I'd do something different. Because sometimes the changes, when that switch does flip, are not so comfortable. In fact, my memory was that a lot of them were not the most happy moments of my life, that something changed dramatically that was challenging for me. And so I want to invite us to contemplate today, how can we handle it when life changes so quickly? And we're hesitant, we're resistant, we wish it wasn't happening. What are some key things that we can remember to be able to get through a moment like that in a little more grace and a little more of a pace that works for us, with a little more peace inside of us? How do we embrace it? Well, the first thing that I suggest, I have 3 things for us. Be with it. Just be with it. I know that this is a happy, positive, optimistic teaching that we're all a part of, but I think it's so important when life changes or things happen that are disturbing to us or that we don't like, that we are authentically present with them, especially initially. That feeling of disappointment, that feeling of sadness, that feeling of grief or sense of loss or just frustration or anger. Sometimes in our hope to be as positive as possible, we mistakenly face a change like that with, well, it's going to be okay, it's all good, life's just fine. And ultimately, that's the spiritual truth. So I'm not saying it's not. But I also have experienced in my life that when those moments of huge change comes along, I tend to cope better when I'm willing initially to be really present to it. Wow, that just happened. Wow, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Oh my gosh, this hurts. Being with my emotions, my feelings, my shock even, to allow myself to experience it. Because if we just gloss over it, I think what we don't always realize is that shocks like that to our system anchor themselves in our nervous system. Literally, our physical nervous system, they anchor themselves in our consciousness. And if we don't allow ourselves to be with them in full measure, a part of us can almost literally get stuck. Like we don't actually process what just happened because we'll try to gloss over it or pretend it's not happening or force ourselves not to cry because grown-ups don't cry, or whatever our story might be, when all the while the situation we're facing would be met much more clearly if we just were with it, just acknowledged it, just felt it, just allowed it, just be with it. And so that's the first thing. Just be with what's so. It may be minutes, it may be hours, it may be days. Now, it's not usually years and years. See, sometimes that's where many of us stop, right there. I'm just going to be with my tragedy for the rest of my life. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being with it in that moment and acknowledging it and feeling it and just letting it be so. And then I think the next part is to share the story of it. But this can be a delicate thing because there are people in our life who are mentors and supporters and cheerleaders, And there are people in our life who are tormentors and who are people who don't always have our best interest at heart, or who are always happy to tell us how silly we are, or how our ideas are not right, or who do we think we are, those kind of people. We don't share our story of what happened necessarily with people like that. That's kind of a setup. We know that if I go tell my Aunt Matilda, who always has some criticism of me, this story about this shocking change that occurred in my life, she's just going to go on and on about how I'm just not strong enough or I'm not equipped to deal with that. So tell the story, but be mindful about who we tell the story to. And tell the story with boundaries. To say to someone, I'd really like to talk to you about this change that happened. It just feels like a switch got flipped and now something's really different. And it would really help me if you could just listen to me and let me tell the story, and then afterwards maybe we can talk a little bit about it. I don't need any advice. I don't need you to fix it for me. I just need to tell the story and feel heard. That's so valuable. And to tell somebody what it is that we need. Or maybe we need advice. I'm going to tell you the story and I just want you to help me figure it out. Maybe that's in the cards. For me, I write it, I journal it, I will tell people about it. And there comes a moment after telling the story of, you'll never believe what happened, this changed so fast, where my telling of the story out loud or in my journal or to someone who really listens starts to shift its energy in me. I start to incorporate it, and I start to even see beyond it, to start to feel a part of me being pulled into a solution. And I understand that there are times when we can't do these steps I'm talking about, like this, and then that, and then the next step I'll tell you about, because maybe we've been given a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis, and we've got to deal with the shock of that and be able to talk about it at the same time. So these first two steps in certain situations can go hand in hand, happening both at the same time. And then the last one that I talk about a lot is get help. Find help. I share this message with people a lot because I have been an expert at not letting people help me. I have been an expert in my life about keeping quiet about my pain or my sadness or things that happened in my life that were frustrating to me. And as I've grown older and wiser, I have just discovered that we are so surrounded by people who are willing to support us, to pray with us, to listen to us. So if it's a trusted friend or companion, if it's a therapist or a life coach or a practitioner prayer partner, or someone who we can express our feelings about, it can make such a difference. In the last few years, I've had a lot of loss through death in my life. And I can say absolutely that there was this part of me that was tempted just to go hide out in my little hidey-ho and feel sad for myself and cry. And I had my husband and family with me. But I will tell you that I reached out to the ministry here at Mile High Church, and I got in the grief class. I've taken the grief class with Dr. Patty twice now. I have a community of beloveds whom I got to be with in that class that were also going through their own grief and loss. And we will forever be bonded by the sharing of our stories and standing with each other. They didn't give me advice or tell me what to do. Dr. Patty had some great input for how to process grief, but those companions on the journey were just there to be with me, and it made all the difference. So when life changes, when a flip of a switch happens, be willing to get the support you need. Be willing to be with it, to share your story, and to get the help you need to process it and move forward in it. And in doing so, we can incorporate and receive the gifts that that big change has for us. And upon receiving those gifts, we evolve our soul. And hey, that's what it's all about. Thanks for tuning in.
Just taking a breath into this moment, right here, right now. Finding center, allowing that center to just be where you are. And just taking a moment to think about the things that we're grateful for. The beautiful sun in the sky, the beautiful cold that keeps us alert. So grateful for the opportunity to have this moment to be together. Grateful for that voice of the divine, that Holy One, that absolute knowing that there is one God, one light, one love. Call it whatever you choose. There is that opportunity that exists within each and every one of us, that one light. And in this moment, what I know without question is that light shines within each and every one of us. It is the divine opportunity to know and to grow and to be at one, to be at peace. And what I know right here, right now, is that love embraces each and every person hearing these words. That love embraces each and every person on the planet, knowing that that love, that expression of life, that expression of spirit, that expression of God is right here, right now. And as we take that in, we let it heal, we let it release, we let it grow, we let it know. Because right here, right now, love is. Love is what we are, love is who we are, love is how we express in every moment of every day. And as I know this to be the truth for each and every one of us, I am so grateful. Grateful to feel that love, to know that love, and to allow it to be. Grateful for each and every breath, for I know within each and every breath, that love expands and it grows, and it fills our heart and our soul. Whew. And in this knowing, I know that God's got this, that I can release these words to the law, that they have been heard, that they were heard before they were spoken, and they are known. And with this knowing, I say, and so it is.